Introducing our today's fantastic presenter, Dr. Omari is a certified professional astrologer, life and board member of the American Federation of Astrologers, president of the Friends of Astrology Incorporated, life member of the Organization for Professional Astrology, faculty member and past board chair of KeplerCollege of the Astrological Arts and Sciences, board member of the Astrology News Service, and holds a Level 2 certification with the NCGR Professional Astrologers Alliance. He practices and teaches natal, electional, vocational, and mundane astrology and owns Solar Wisdom and Astropreneurship. He holds a certification as a practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming with the Association of Integrative Psychology. He is a hermetician and a member of the Order of the Sphinx with the Church of Light. He has a PhD in business management, specializing in accounting, and is a college professor teaching finance and accounting courses. He has presented at NORWAC, UWAC, Indian Institute of Oriental Heritage, Astrological Association of Great Britain, Friends of Astrology, International Association of Astrological Research, Astrology Hub Podcast, Inner Circle, San Francisco Astrology Society, Washington State Astrological Association, and for several chapters of the NCGR. He's been a frequent guest on KUBU's 96.5 FM, and his articles appear in the Career/Evolving Astrologer. What haven't you done, Omari? Absolutely fantastic. And for more information, you can go to Omari's website, which is solarwisdom.com. Omari is also on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, BlueSky, and Twitter, with all the handles you can see on the screen there. And Omari primarily uses the Placidus house system. So Omari, very thankful you're here today, and it's always a pleasure, and I'm going to pass on the baton to you.
Well, thank you, Callum. I appreciate that. Let's get started. Okay, so once again, everyone, this is the agenda. What is vocational astrology? Just want to use that to set the foundation, if you will, and the Rechter Approach. We'll give attention to aspects, placements, and declinations. We're going to give attention to Urania. Then we have examples, Married Couple 1, Married Couple 2, a magazine publisher, someone who took a different path. We're going to take a look at an astrologer who has a household name. Everyone will know who it is when we look at that chart. We'll take a look at an astrologer who is second generation, and we'll take a look at a group of astrologers who are a part of a family business or the family business. So what is vocational astrology? So I do talk about or lecture or present about vocational astrology. And today we're going to have a targeted approach, because we'll be looking for those things that may, or those aspects and placements and declinations that may indicate that one may have the inclination to be an astrologer. So as you see here, it's the process of identifying trends in the natal chart that point towards a particular profession or industry. And today we'll take a look to see chart examples where that profession or industry is astrology. And outside of astrology, it could be other careers or professions, such as a doctor, lawyer, teacher, social worker, engineer, politician, clergyman, salesman, banker, jeweler, and etc. And while specific roles or positions have been named, each belongs to a profession or industry. And there are some individuals who have a successful career, but they don't like it. Personally, I have met individuals who took the bar exam to become an attorney, and they don't practice law. I've also met some certified public accountants who, at one time in their life, that person was a certified public accountant, and they no longer do that. Some individuals used to be judges, and they're no longer a judge, so it happens. Others like their career, but may not be successful, especially in terms of dollars and cents. So some people really enjoy what they do, and they don't make a lot of money. So the word successful or having a successful career, it's subjective. The word successful is subjective and has a different meaning for different individuals. Now, according to Luntz, an individual of strong will, fixed determination, and perseverance may achieve moderate success in a vocation for which their horoscope shows them to be unfitted. But the horoscope also shows the preponderance of fixed signs and other indicators that mark the willpower that did it. To what heights, however, might this willpower not have carried them had they followed the lines of their natural aptitude as laid down in the natal chart? Swimming against the current is good exercise, but slow progress. So I think that with vocational astrology, once you look at your own natal chart and determine which profession or industry in which you may have that natural aptitude for, it would potentially be best to go in that direction. And of course, there are other things to consider outside of that as well. So the Rechter Approach, this is a from a book by Christine Lorgan Rechter, and she presents a very simplified perspective to electional astrology. And so when we give attention to vocational astrology, we're looking at three houses: house number 2, house number 6, and house number 10. So with the second house, of course, we know that to be the house of money, values, and possessions. It also indicates talent, that natural talent, as well as resources. And you want to give attention to the sign on the cusp, which should be considered first. The ruler of the sign on the cusp must be considered second. Is it in dignity or exaltation? Or if it is in dignity or exaltation, there is an ease of acquisition, but the opposite is true of the fall or detriment. When the ruler is afflicted, it is necessary to reach out to and work for accumulation. Third, aspects to the ruler of the sign on the cusp are next in priority, and the presence of squares denotes much effort and overt reaching out to bring in funds and possessions. And then we have house number 6, and it determines the manner in which one gets along with coworkers as well as the services rendered. And the quality of the sign on the cusp should be considered first. And then we have house number 10. The profession is defined best in the 10th house. It's one place in the world and one's supervisors, if that applies. The individual signs found there have much to reveal concerning the particular occupation to which one is best suited and should be considered first. The nature of these signs on a 10th house cusp can also define the personality of one's immediate supervisor or manager, and the aspects to the ruler show whether compatible relationships with bosses are to be expected and should be considered second. Now, here's a little more about house number 10. You want to take a note of the ruler of the sign on the cusp and whether it is in a comfortable placement, just in a sign, or uncomfortable. Aspects to the ruler must be considered third. Squares and oppositions do not deny success, but lend a bit of obstacle to pursuits and demand more attention to that area of life. Often, the square can lend strength and the opposition a good decision-making ability. In a conjunction, attributes of the planet other than a ruler are superimposed on it. Trines and sextiles, of course, lend ease of operation and smooth professional ability. The attributes of planets placed in the 10th house lend themselves to the affairs of that house and should be considered fourth. So we just took a look at some of the details according to the Rechter Approach of house number 2, house number 6, and house number 10. Now, in addition to that, let's give attention to, I should say, aspects, placements, and declinations. And again, today we have a targeted focus to look at whether or not this individual has an aptitude or an inclination to become an astrologer in some shape, form, or fashion. And so, what do I mean when I say that? What I mean when I say that is that not every astrologer is a consulting astrologer. You, for example, there is an astrologer whose name escapes me, and don't quote me on this. I think it is David Cochran who does not do personal consultations at this point in his career as an astrologer. And I think he may focus more on research. Um, and that's okay. We have some astrologers who are very good at writing, and mainly what they do, they may write sun sign columns and they may not consult. Some astrologers are very good teachers, and at the same time, they do not present at conferences. So it happens. It's similar to someone who has a chart to be an entertainer. Well, what type of entertainer? Are you going to be a singer, a dancer, or a professional athlete? All three of those individuals are entertainers, but they're different types of entertainers. Now, I like to look at this in terms of a hierarchy of aspects. So when I look at a chart, and especially if the client or a friend has some interest in becoming a professional astrologer, or even if they are an astrologer or a student of astrology, but they don't have clients, I'm looking for a major aspect between the sun and Uranus. Some of you may remember one of our colleagues who has since passed on. His name is Robert Blochke, and he identified that any major aspect between the sun and Uranus is similar to like a Cadillac aspect for an astrologer or a professional astrologer. So in addition to looking at if there's any major aspect between the sun and Uranus, I also look for but with respect to the sun and Uranus, are they in parallel or contra-parallel? Is there a major aspect between the moon and Uranus? Between the moon and Uranus, are they parallel or contra-parallel? Also take a look at the house placement of the planet Uranus. Aspects Uranus makes to the ascendant and the midheaven. Also, the house placement of Urania, which is an asteroid. So we advertise this on social media, and a few of you really engage with the KeplerCollege social media channel, and we thank you for that. And a few of you made a reference to Urania, which is an asteroid. Now, in the normal course of business, I rarely consult with the asteroids, but because some of you, our audience members, mentioned Urania in our social media channel, I thought it would be just great to add it. So I think this house placement of Urania should be considered, and I'll share some more details about that asteroid in a few moments. And we want to keep in mind that Mercury is the traditional ruler of astrology, and that was the case before Uranus was discovered. And so, we know Mercury rules Gemini. The motto for Gemini is, I think. We know that Mercury is associated with the conscious mind. Mercury also rules Virgo. And the motto for Virgo is I analyze. Virgo is associated with the intestines. And in the intestines, that's where our food is synthesized for the nutrients that it has. And when you do chart work, But even when you look at your own chart, there is the task of synthesizing all of the aspects and delineating them. So when I first learned or recognized that Mercury is the traditional ruler of astrology, it made perfect sense to me. And also, I think it's a good idea to consider the minor aspects too between the sun and Uranus and the moon and Uranus. So I want to pause and ask, Callum, any questions?
Yes, plenty of questions coming in. Thank you, Omari. We've got a question here asking, how do you treat intercepted signs in the houses?
Oh,
Or do you?
how do I treat them? It depends on which branch of astrology I'm looking at. But if the zodiac sign, but if there's an interception, I'm inclined to treat it the same because it's still there. And that energy based on how I've been taught, when there's an interception, if there are any planets that are in that interceptor sign, the energy is activated through progressions and transits.
Thank you, Omari. And what orbs do you use? And maybe some of these connections here, like Sun,
Oh,
Uranus,
wow.
etc.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's a great question. And as we know, sometimes as astrologers, we disagree about the orbs. Now, today you will see that I'm using some wide orbs. I was taught astrology by a gentleman who was born in 1910. So he learned astrology long before all of the apps. And when I met him, he was in his 90s and he had been teaching astrology and working with clients for over 70 years. And the orb he gave, I clearly remember, was a 10-degree orb, particularly with the lights, the sun and the moon. And while I think that's wide, because he practiced astrology for so long, I was in no position to agree otherwise. So between the sun and the moon, I always allow a wider orb. Between the planets, um, 5 or 6, particularly with natal astrology. When I'm looking at transits and progressions, I use a much tighter orb, 1 degree applying, 1 degree separating for transits and progressions. But in natal astrology, I use wider orbs.
Thank you very much. And how does the chart ruler play a role here, do you think?
Oh, the chart ruler. Yes. So we will look at 1 or 2 charts in which the chart ruler makes a major aspect with the planet Uranus. And you should give attention to the chart ruler. It matters. It makes a difference. Yes.
Fantastic. Maybe take two more here because we've got so many questions coming in. I think you've just alluded to this, but the question here is, do you take into account declination and out of bounds planets?
Yes. Yes. And we're going to look at that today. Yes. Yes, I do. Definitely. Yes.
Fantastic. And I will get to everyone's questions eventually, but another one here we have is, I have heard that the ninth house is the house of astrology. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. To the point. Wonderful.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you, Callum. And thank you, everyone, for your questions. We appreciate that. Okay, excellent. So let's move forward. So someone just asked about declination. Well, here we go. So in astrology, declination refers to the north-south position of a celestial body, like a planet, relative to the celestial equator. It's measured in degrees, similar to latitude on Earth, and is an important aspect of astrology that some practitioners believe adds depth to chart interpretations. So I am one of those astrologers or practitioners where, yes, I believe that declination adds depth to chart interpretations. And while traditional astrological charts use longitude, the position of planets around the zodiac, Declination provides an additional north-south dimension. Declination is particularly relevant for identifying parallel and contraparallel aspects between planets. Parallel aspects occur when planets have the same declination north or south of the celestial equator, while contraparallel aspects occur when they have opposite declination values. So we will take a look at a few chart examples today. The individual has, I think, Sun parallel to Uranus, the moon parallel to Uranus, or contraparallel, something like that, but we'll see that shortly. So here, and give me just a moment, I want to enlarge this so you don't have to squint. Let me move that over. And I wanted to do the best that I could to show declination. So here, and this comes from a software program. If you look to the right-hand side, we have south, and at the bottom we have north, and we have 0, and that's that celestial equator. And the southernmost point is 23 degrees and 27 minutes, and the northernmost point is 23 degrees and 27 minutes. And in this particular chart, this individual has two planets that are out of bounds. Mars is out of bounds at 24 degrees north, and Venus is also out of bounds at 24 degrees north. We will look at a chart today in which there is an individual who has Uranus out of bounds. And so, yes, declination. And let's see. Now, we want to keep in mind, everyone, that when we look at a chart wheel on a screen or a piece of paper, we only really see two dimensions. And we want to keep in mind that we exist in a three-dimensional reality. So we could look at longitude as the x-axis, we could look at latitude as the y-axis, and we can look at declination as the z-axis. And you can't see it because it's right in front of you. And yeah, so again, as a professional astrologer, I do look at natal declinations. I also look at progressed declinations. And when I lecture about vocational astrology, there's a celebrity, a famous, well, it's a celebrity, yes, it's a famous person, where I actually show how on this particular day in the life of that individual, how the progressed declinations activated. So Urania. So once again, I want to just say thank you to those who mentioned Urania on social media. It was mentioned a couple of times, and in my, I had that gut instinct that it would be a good idea to simply add it. So in astrology, we have the asteroid Urania, number 30. It represents the Greek muse of astronomy and astrology, and it is associated with a scientific, objective approach to understanding the heavens and the cosmos, and it's often linked to an Aquarian, Uranian, or an Uranian influence perspective. So I get that definition from AI, and my thought is that some of you are already familiar with Urania, and I took a look at Urania in my own chart. And while I do not show my chart publicly, I will make a reference to it because it pertains to what we are discussing today. So when I was born, the sun was conjunct Uranus, and the sun was also parallel to Uranus. And I learned in the process of preparing for our webinar today that Urania makes a perfect trine to my ascendant, and that in my chart, Urania is out of bounds. So when I looked at Urania in my own chart, I was like, wow, another emphasis that astrology would be a part of my life. At the beginning, Callum shared my bio, so it all fits, it fits, and it makes sense. Okay, so let's move forward. So, Callum, any questions?
Yes, plenty of questions popping in. So let me just pull up the Q&A box. I might rephrase this question. Are you going to be talking about the nodes at all? And what are your thoughts on the nodes? Maybe some connections to Uranus, the sun, etc.
No, I have not given attention to the Sun or Uranus making any contacts to the nodes. It doesn't mean that that should not happen. That in the process of preparing for the webinar today, I only have so much time to work with, so I did not focus on the nodes for today.
Thank you. What max orbs are you using in parallel, contraparallel combinations? Or an example, a Sun Uranus, can that be considered?
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, because you have an orb again. One, like 1 degree either side. I think for my astrology software, I think it's 1 degree and 30 minutes either side for declination.
Wonderful, thank you. When looking at your chart, can you apply these delineation techniques both to Western and Vedic astrology?
To Vedic, I do not know. I know Vedic astrology exists, but I have never studied it. So to Western astrology, yes. To Vedic astrology, I do not know.
Forgive me, I think you said yes to this, but just to reiterate, do you apply declinations when looking at asteroids as well? I think you did mention that.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Thank you. For a sign like Aquarius, would you look at Uranus only or both? Saturn, obviously, is the traditional ruler. Are you using modern rulerships as well with the Uranus?
Okay. Depending on the situation, I look at both. Now, I do want to share when I was a new student to astrology, I only gave attention to Uranus as the modern ruler of Aquarius. And as the years went by and I had an opportunity to hear some of our more seasoned colleagues speak on the matter, I did go back, if you will, and I started looking at Saturn as a co-ruler. But for today, I have given the attention to Uranus.
Wonderful, thank you. Three more questions here. What software program do you prefer
Oh, do
to
I
use?
prefer? Let's see. Well, okay, I'll answer it this way. The software program that I currently use is the one that I could afford when I was a college student many years ago. The one that I think is more popular, which does have a lot of bells and whistles, is one that I could not afford as a college student. So I had to go with the one that fit my budget. It was very intuitive for me to learn, and the owner or designer of the software has been very intentional about adding updates to the software over the past 2 decades or so.
Well, thank you. Do you have any books slash resource recommendations for learning more about declination?
Yes, the title of the book is called Declinations. It's by K.T. Baer. To it, the initial K, the initial T, and Baer, which is Boehrer. And that book, again, the title is Declination, and it is published by the American Federation of Astrologers. She was someone who began to talk about that, or talk about declinations, I think maybe in the 70s and the 80s, because seemingly at some point it had fallen off a little bit. And
Thank
that's
you.
just
And
one book that I speak. I own that book. There are others, but I make mention of that because I own it. I've read it.
forgive me, I'm not sure if I caught the name of the software program you were referring to as you were talking about that. What was the name?
Intentionally did not name it, so I
Oh,
don't
okay.
want it to
Sorry.
show up as an endorsement. So that's a good catch. And by design, I did not want to mention the name of it, or I refrain from mentioning any of the software programs by name, just so as not to have it come across as an endorsement.
Okay, thank you. Last question here. I'm going to rephrase this one because this is quite personal, but do you also look at relocation charts and applying all the delineations you're going to be talking about today? Do you look at relocated charts?
Um, Now, I may have done that once. Astrocartography, which was that's a specific title. The gentleman's name, I think, was Jerry or James, and I don't remember his last name, or Jeffrey, and I don't remember his last name. I have looked at that maybe for one or two clients. And one time, just for fun, I looked at it for myself, and I'm clear there are one or two places I will never move. In one case, Neptune squares the ascendant, so I'm like, nope, not going to move to that place. Might not even visit. I've never visited that place, so I may never visit just for that reason alone. I don't know, but I'm not a relocation astrologer. But I would say some of these same um, techniques would apply.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's take a look at our first married couple. You may recognize their names when you see them. So our first person is Catherine Grant. Catherine Grant is one of the founders of the American Federation of Astrologers, and she was born in the late 1800s. So I want to expand this just a little bit. Okay, so you don't have to squint. Now, in this case, I've made it a point to draw some lines to help everyone see where I am. So, Catherine Grant has the moon at 22 of Aquarius in house number 5, and it forms a square to Uranus at 23 Scorpio in the second house. Let's see. Catherine also has the sun at 18 Aries in 37 minutes, and it forms a quincunx to Uranus. That's a minor aspect. And Catherine Grant has Urania at 29 Cancer and 52 minutes, and it forms a conjunction to Jupiter at the same degree. And let's see, Venus 24, should that be there? Yeah, Venus 24 Pisces. Venus is exalted in Pisces, and it also forms a trine to Uranus in the second house. And I make a mention of Venus or the sixth house because house number 6 is one of the vocational houses. And we also see that Catherine Grant has Libra rising. So Venus is the chart ruler, and the chart ruler forms a trine to Uranus. And my software program that I have, while it calculates many asteroids for me, I did not have the glyphs for those asteroids plugged in. So this little blue star, the four-pointed blue star, I'm using that to identify the position for Urania in some of the charts that I show today. Any questions?
Sorry, let me see. I don't know if you mentioned this before, but what orb are you using for the Urania asteroid? Did you mention like between like 1 and 2? Is that what you said?
Um, in this case, because it's NATO, I'm gonna say maybe 5 or 6. Normally, I very rarely work with the asteroids. I'm growing into use of the asteroids, and I do give attention in my work to fixed stars as well, but I specifically focused on the asteroid Urania today because I think it is applicable.
Thank you. And this is going back to house systems again. I know you primarily use Placidus quadrant house systems, but do you often look at maybe whole sign to see if there's any switch of planets into houses, or do you just primarily stick with one or two house systems?
I primarily stick with Placidus. I do not use whole sign. For example, the chart that we're looking at right now is a distortion of reality. Why? Because we can't see the third dimension, and yet we know there is one. So in my mind, when I use whole sign, it becomes the distortion of a distortion. And just to how I'm wired, it bothers me when I see the letter A below the horizon, where it stands for the ascendant. But that's just me. And I have started, and I want to give my colleague, Dr. Lee Lehman, acknowledgement for this. Based on the work that she does, I have started looking at Regiomontanus as an different house system to look at and to begin to work with. So Placidus and Regiomontanus, and at one point in time, I started looking at the Koch house system as well.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, so that's Catherine Grant. Now, Catherine Grant, um, again, one of the founding members of the American Federation of Astrologers in 1938, was married to Ernest Grant. And Ernest has, let's see, the moon in Aquarius at 17, moon 14 Aquarius 17, forming a square to Uranus. And Uranus is 7 Scorpio and 16, and Uranus is retrograde. So here is an example of a wide orb, and it is also separating. Ernest also has the moon trine Urania. Again, that blue star is what I'm using to symbolize Urania because I don't have the glyph for that asteroid in my software program at this time, but I'll be adding it soon enough. And let's see, the Ernest has the sun at 14 Gemini, forming a quincunx to Uranus. So that's a minor aspect. So when I looked at this chart, this is what I saw, and I want to recognize that both Catherine and Ernest have the asteroid Urania in the 10th house, the house of career, public standing, achievement, and honors. And we know that Catherine and Ernest Grant accomplished a lot as professional astrologers, and the AFA is still here and going strong. Okay, and for full disclosure, I'm a board member of AFA as well. Let's see. So that's the first married couple. We also have another married couple to take a look at. And this is the natal chart of Christine Ahrens. Christine Ahrens and her husband Norman, whose chart is next. They are my teachers. These are my first two teachers of astrology. I think they are conservative, and I think that's where some of my conservatism about astrology comes from, and that's okay. But I want to enlarge this just a little bit. Okay, and we can see that Christine has Uranus in the 10th house at 24 Gemini and 3 minutes. Venus, remember, house number 2 is a vocational house, And Venus is the second house ruler, is in the 10th. I will also add that Christine, her mother, Gladys Hall, was also a certified professional astrologer with AFA, and she was a board member of the AFA. So today, this is the first um, instance in which I make a reference to a second generation astrologer, which is what Christine is. I did not reach out to her to get her mother's birth data. I'm sure she would have given it to me, but I will add it for the future. Now, Christine's um, first career, she worked for corporate America. She worked for the Sunbeam Corporation, and she worked in corporate communications, and it was her responsibility to send out the monthly employee newsletter or something like that. And so she has since retired from doing chart work for clients, but she still serves on a couple of boards in the astrology community, and she is an past board chair of KeplerCollege. Let's see. Let's look at Norman's chart. So Norman, I made a reference to him earlier. Norman was born in 1910. Norman did everything by hand, everything. He calculated every chart by hand, and he manually rectified the birth chart of all his students. Now, as we can see, Norman has on the midheaven of um 25 of Aquarius. Norman has the moon at 21 Aries and 56 minutes. The moon is also the ruler of the second house, and it forms a square to Uranus at 25 degrees of Capricorn. The sun is at 16 Taurus in the 12th house, and it forms a trine to Uranus. And Uranus is also the ruler of the midheaven. Now, Norman's prior career was that of a banker. He was a banker. He worked for a few banks for a couple of years. We want to keep in mind this is someone who lived through the Great Depression of 1929 and thereafter. And when I met him, once again, he had been teaching and practicing astrology for over 70 years. He taught it from a spiritual and philosophical perspective, and his wife Christine taught astrology from a technical and a technical and theoretical perspective. They were both Taurians, May 7th and May 8th, and they worked well together in the classroom as astrologers. She didn't ride his coattails, he didn't ride hers. Any questions about the couples?
Let's see. Was one of the couples, was it Grant's chart? Was he involved? Or was that further back? Somebody is asking, how would you read those inconjunct aspects in Grant's chart? It's not too harmonious, right? Question mark.
Oh, okay. So the focus was not on a chart delineation or natal chart delineation. I'm just giving laser focus to astrology in that person's chart for today because we have a few charts to look at. But even if they are inharmonious, and I didn't, look at it, this is like the first time I've ever looked at his chart. Uh, well, as an astrologer, he was successful with the AFA.
Wonderful, thank you. I wonder how many of us here, like I just did before, looked up Urania in their own charts if they've not seen it before. So it seems like we've got a couple of questions on that. Someone is asking, I have Urania conjunct my ascendant in Aquarius with Saturn in the first. Do you see Urania or Aquarius risings and Uranian chart rulers heavily involved in astrology generally, whether or not in a professional context?
Okay, great question. Now, you said that Aquarius is rising, so maybe not Aquarius rising by itself, but I did hear Callum say that Urania is forming a conjunction to the ascendant, and based on that, and of course other things in the chart, I would say yes, because we'll see today a couple of our chart examples. The individuals have the planet Uranus forming a conjunction to the ascendant. And I would add Urania for good measure. I would.
Wonderful, thank you. Two exact same questions we've got here in the chat. What signs slash houses are, in your view, are most beneficial to have Uranus in if you want to be an astrologer?
Oh man. Okay, y'all getting it in, boy. I'm telling you. Okay. Okay. House number 10. Yes. I would even add house number 9. And I'm saying house number 9 because we're going to see some examples of that today. And I will add house number 2. Um, for example, if one has the planet Uranus in the second house, well, that can represent various unexpected twists and turns with the income or upheavals with the income. Potentially, one could make money as an astrologer.
Fantastic, thank you. Would you add major aspects between Uranus and the chart ruler into
Yes.
consideration?
Yes, I would. Based on, and again, this is not a large sample, but just based on what I have seen, looking at the charts in preparation for today, I am inclined to say yes. And, more research needs to be done, but for right now, my answer is yes.
Wonderful, thank you. I think we're good for right now.
Okay, great. So let's take a look at this next individual. This individual is a magazine publisher. I did write an article that the magazine publisher published in their magazine. The name of the magazine is, if I remember correctly, I Am. And let's just get right to Smiljana's chart. We talked on the phone once or twice, or did we just email? Anyway, Smiljana, just a pleasant person to talk to and communicate with. She was such a gem because it was my first time having an article published in an astrology magazine. So I want to look at her chart. Now, when it comes to astrology in the chart, Smiljana, the ball is just knocked out of the park. So Smiljana has the moon at 15 Cancer, 43 minutes. It's forming a trine to Uranus at 25 Scorpio and 9 minutes. So as you can see, everyone, that is a wide orb. However, the moon travels fast. We know that. Uranus is within a 4-degree orb of the ascendant. Someone, I think, just may have asked a question about that. Here's an example. Now, Smiljana has the sun 17 degrees south, 56 minutes, parallel to Uranus at 18 degrees south and 47 minutes. She also has the moon 18 north, 55 minutes, contra-parallel Uranus at 18 south, 47 minutes. Uranus, 18 south, 47 minutes, is parallel to the ascendant at 18 degrees south and 10 minutes. And here's Mercury, the traditional ruler of astrology, 18 south, 7 minutes, parallel to Uranus, 18 south, 47 minutes. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when we look at Smiljana's declinations, there are 4 type aspects that emphasize astrology. And did the circle and the line to help the members in the audience actually see make a reference to what I am talking about. Okay, and again, Smoljana is a magazine publisher. And let's see. Um, yeah, so, okay, I see it. Okay, so let's take a look at the next person, a different path. Okay, now, this is a friend of mine. And as you can see, I have circled the cusp of the vocational houses. So the ruler for house number 2 is Mercury. The ruler for house number 6 is Venus. And the ruler for house number 10 is Uranus. And this friend has the sun conjunct Uranus at 13 Libra. The sun is 5 degrees south, parallel Uranus at 4 degrees south. And we can clearly see that the rulers of house number 2, house number 6, and house number 10 are all in a Libra stellium. So I have one question for this audience. What do you think this person does for a career? Callum, do we have any answers in the chat?
I'm
Again,
watching
what do
the
you
chat right now. I'm seeing if we're getting any answers in. Someone is saying medicine, law. We've got another law. Let's see. Law, lawyer. What else have we got? Let's see if more start trickling through. Medical astrology. Again, consulting engineer, question mark, new age career. Interesting
Okay.
ideas here. Consulting
Okay.
sales. Yep, a whole bunch of answers coming through.
Okay, great. So I want to thank each of you who took a moment to respond to that question. Someone said new age career and engineer. You are correct. My friend, we have been friends now for over 25 years. My friend is a computer network engineer. So we want to keep in mind that Uranus rules the internet. And so she goes in to make sure that the laptops connect to the internet and that they speak to one another, that they speak to the printer, I think via now a wireless network and all that other stuff. And so while I will say, I'm going to be honest, when I was new to astrology, had you put this chart in front of me, I would have bet money that this person had a keen interest in astrology or that this person was an astrologer, and I would have lost my money. Now, I'm sharing this chart for our collective benefit in that just because someone has the sun conjunct Uranus, and in this case, they're both at the same degree, and just because someone has the sun parallel to Uranus, and just because in this case someone has the rulers of the vocational houses as a part of the stellium that includes the sun and Uranus, it does not mean that the person will be an astrologer. At this point, my friend will never be an astrologer. This friend has no desire to even study astrology. And I do look at her chart a couple of times a year, and that's it. So I just wanted to share that with you that sometimes just because you see those favorable indicators for astrology, it doesn't automatically mean that the person will be an astrologer. And again, I appreciate those of you who answered the question because I heard professions other than astrology. Thank you. Callum, any follow-up from the audience about this chart?
Not this chart in specifically, but there's some excellent questions coming in. So, do you use midpoints in connection to astrology and their interactions with specific planets as indicators of astrology being interesting or
Oh, wow.
interested or
Yeah, that would
practicing?
be interesting. So my answer to your question is that I have not done that. And that would be interesting to do. I have not done it, but that would be interesting to do. I have looked at midpoint. So, for example, I shared earlier, I have the sun conjunct Uranus. It's a tight orb. The sun is applying to Uranus. And I have at times paid attention to that midpoint between the two.
Wonderful. Thank you. Somebody's saying here, I wonder if Jupiter relates to astrology as a planet of philosophy and spirituality. What does Dr. Omari think about this? Rex Bill's rulership book adds Neptune, Pisces in the seventh house, by the way, as a secondary to Uranus and Aquarius.
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so here it is right here. I got the book. I got the book. I got the book. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. A brother is ready. Okay. Okay, I like the question. Now, because Jupiter is associated with the ninth house, and the ninth house is philosophy. Um, with Jupiter, I'm inclined to say yes, just a little bit. With the Neptune, um, maybe more so spirituality and not so much astrology. And not that there's a total and complete disconnect. I do not think that there is a total and complete disconnect. I
Wonderful.
hope
Thank
that
you.
answers the question.
Fantastic. Yeah, prominent Jupiter for the likes of Robert Hand and many others. So thank you for the
Hmm.
questions. Uh, what about fixed stars? Do you use fixed stars at all? Into consideration?
Um, only okay. I'm okay. So I'm so biased when I say this. So, okay, I've been looking at the fixed star Regulus only because it's getting close to a conjunction with a planetary body in my chart. If that was not happening, I probably wouldn't look. But I do like to look at Regulus, where's Regulus, and maybe one or two others. Um, so on occasion, yes, I look at the fixed stars and I don't do it routinely. I do not. But I will look, yes.
Fantastic. And the last question here, I might rephrase this a little bit. They're talking about what are your thoughts in terms of element, mode, and polarity? Is there a certain maybe combination or emphasis on any of the three that you might lean towards in terms of either being an astrologer or research, things of that nature?
Yes, I think those should be considered. Yes. Now today, that's not the focus, but generally speaking, yes, we should consider those.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we good? All
Yes,
right.
thank you very much. Yep.
Okay, great. So now, this astrologer has a household name. When you see the name, you're gonna know who I'm talking about. So, drum roll, please. Okay, Rick Merlin Levine. Okay, now, um, hey Rick, I hope if you see this, want to just say hello to you, and also want to recognize Rick Levine as being one of our board members here at Kepler College. Now, Rick has the sun, 16 Aries, 25 minutes, sextile Uranus at 26 Gemini, 58 minutes. So, everyone, that is one of those Cadillac aspects that Robert Blochke was referring to. Rick also has Uranus at 26 Gemini and 58 minutes, um, forming a trine to the midheaven at 21 Aquarius and 13 minutes. And Uranus is also the ruler of the midheaven, and Uranus is forming a trine to the midheaven. Also, Rick has Uranus 23 degrees north, 37 minutes, parallel the ascendant 22 degrees north, 43 minutes. And Rick also has the planet Uranus out of bounds. So someone, I think, asked that question earlier. So here we have it. Uranus out of bounds in the natal chart of one of our most esteemed uh, professional astrologers, Rick Merlin Levine. Okay. And, just as a side note, everyone, we see that Rick has Jupiter in the ninth house. He does a lot of international traveling. I think he was just in, I think he was just in Istanbul or Bali earlier this year, in one of those places. I think every year he's taking an international trip. Lucky Rick. Love it. Any questions, Callum?
Sorry, let me have a look here. Dr. Omari, what do you think about looking at a draconic chart, or do you?
Okay, I know they exist. I have never looked at one, but I would, to grow my own, to learn more, to continue growing and learning as a professional astrologer. Yes, I would, but I've never done it. I've never looked at a draconian chart, and I know they exist.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think that's it for now.
That's it. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Okay, second generation. So this is another friend. And when it comes to the astrology in this friend's chart, this friend has um, the moon at 10 Gemini and 38 minutes, forming a trine to Uranus at 6 Libra and 11 minutes. And, we can see Uranus is retrograde. Uranus is in the 10th house, and the natal Uranus is slightly beyond a 5-degree orb of the midheaven, and it is also slightly beyond a parallel to the midheaven. And my friend, her mother studied astrology and at one point could calculate charts by hand. So this is the second example of the next generation studying and having an interest in astrology. I will add that this friend studies astrology, practices astrology a little bit, has done charts of a few close friends, and does not do astrology or practice astrology professionally. Okay, so I have intentionally saved the best for last. So this is a family business, and once you see the names, you're going to know exactly who I'm talking about. And we're going to start with Maggie Nalbandian. And without question, I want to, as the immediate past board chair of Kepler College and a faculty member here at Kepler College, I want to recognize that Maggie Nalbandian is our founder. And so this is her chart. Um, when Maggie was born, and I have permission from the family, and I affectionately refer to our founder as Mother Maggie. Maggie has the moon at 5 Aquarius, forming a square to Uranus at 8 Taurus. We see that Uranus is where? In the ninth house. Maggie has Uranus 13 North, 51 minutes, parallel to the natal ascendant at 13 North and 29 minutes. And Maggie has Urania at 27 Scorpio and 6 minutes, and it's retrograde. And I am including Urania here, Urania here at 27 Scorpio for a specific reason, and you'll see that shortly. Let's see. So this is Maggie's chart. So again, Maggie Nalbandian is also the founder of NORWAC, the Northwest Astrology Conference, which took place a couple of weeks ago. Some of you may have attended NORWAC. Kepler College was there to meet and greet new students and current students and alumni, and mix and mingle with the astrology community. And again, Maggie has Uranus in the ninth house. It's apparent Maggie Nalbandian had a vision. a vision for astrology. I recently spoke with her daughter, and I learned that Maggie Nalbandian had the vision for an astrology school where all thoughts of all schools of thought of astrology could be taught. So earlier today, Callum asked me about whole sign. While I personally don't look at whole sign charts regularly, there's some astrologers who do, and that's okay. Her vision was again that all schools of thought are presented, and as the immediate past board chair, we take pride in that, and that we don't have the guru model in place, and that's by design. We want to teach all of it, make all of it available, and you, as one of our students, you get to choose what you like, and you get to choose what works for you. So, Maggie Nalbandian. And so, without question, who knows who's next on the list? Whose chart are I going to present next? Type it in the chat pod.
Everyone's saying Laura right now.
That's right.
We've got Chris Brennan in there as well, but mainly Laura.
It's her daughter, Laura Nalbandian. Um, love Laura. And also, I'm just going to associate myself with the Nalbandians, in particular with Maggie and Laura in the moment. We all have Leo rising. I just can't leave that out. Now, can I? Okay, so Laura Nalbandian. This is Laura's chart. And let's see. So Laura has the moon in Taurus. As we know, the moon is exalted in Taurus. Laura has the moon at 10 degrees Taurus, 14 minutes, and it forms a square to her natal Uranus at 15 Leo in 2 minutes. I want to point out to everyone that Maggie and Laura both have the moon square Uranus. Both of them have the moon square Uranus between mother and daughter. Laura has Uranus within a 3-degree orb of the ascendant. And so I think earlier we saw someone who had Uranus within a 3-degree orb of the ascendant, but the Uranus was in house number 1. Well, here it is in house number 12. And also Urania. So Laura has the sun at 27 Capricorn, 15 minutes, and it forms a sextile to Urania at 27 Scorpio. Maggie and Laura both have Urania at 27 Scorpio. And also for Laura, her Urania is forming a conjunction to Jupiter. We also saw this Urania-Jupiter conjunction in the chart of Catherine Grant. When we saw Catherine Grant's chart was the first chart we saw today. And Catherine Grant had that in house number 10, an angular house, also a vocational house. And while house number 4 is not a vocational house, it is an angular house. Okay, now, whose chart are we going to look at next? Whose chart are we going to look at next?
Let's see. Any guesses in the chat? Let us know. We've got Chris Brennan, Nick Campion, the brother, Greg
Okay.
Nalbandian.
Okay, someone said the brother, and you are correct. So,
Congratulations.
Greg Nalbandian. Okay, I mean, how could I not? How could I not? How could I not? Okay, so with Greg Nalbandian, astrology in the chart, Uranus is at 3 Virgo, 21 in the ninth house. So Greg's mother, Maggie, also had Uranus in the ninth house. Greg's rising sign is Sagittarius. The ruler of Sagittarius is Jupiter. Jupiter is at three degrees Pisces. We also know that Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces. It rules the ascendant and it opposes Uranus to the degree. And in Greg's chart, Jupiter and Uranus form a contraparallel. Now, let's see. Excuse me for backing up, but I want to say a little bit more about Laura. So, of course, we do know that after, Mother Maggie made her transition, Laura became the one responsible for coordinating and managing NORWAC, which is the Northwest Astrology Conference. Okay, so we all know that. And some of you saw her a few weeks ago if you were at NORWAC, and you also saw Greg a few weeks ago if you were at NORWAC. But what do we notice about Greg? Greg is responsible for managing and coordinating Astrology et al. Bookstore. So while I think Mother Maggie established the bookstore as well. And so Laura, handles NORWAC, and Greg handles the bookstore at NORWAC. And and we know that Jupiter is associated with what? Publishing. And so Astrology et al. Does not publish any books based on what I know, but Astrology et al. Is a huge bookseller. So Callum, any questions?
Yes, we have some fantastic questions coming through. And just
Okay,
to
great.
mention again that Laura will be at our symposium this September at Niagara Falls. So we'd love to see you in person if you can attend. I think we can put a link in the chat for all the presenters that are going to be there, but we're very, very excited.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. And I want to add, everyone, that Laura Nalbandian is our very first college president. So Laura Nalbandian is the first college president of Kepler College, right, if I remember that correctly. So I just want to acknowledge her for that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Trudy is saying, I think I discovered astrology and tarot after I relocated and lived near a Uranus line. Has Omari ever noticed relevance like this where astrocartography awakens us as astrologers?
Trudy, love the question, and I will say yes. I will say yes. And so I'll say I feel comfortable sharing this with the audience today. While this isn't Uranus, so I'm born in Chicago, and I have in my natal chart what is called a mundane parallel. A mundane parallel is very specific. It's chart specific. So I have the fourth house cusp. On one side is Jupiter, on the other side is Venus. I had the benefics. The benefics are equidistant from our fourth house cusp, as long as I live in Chicago. Well, when I lived in Chicago, I always had a place to stay rent free because I did what? I lived with my parents. So I went away to college, came back many years later. I moved in. My parents had separated, and I moved in with my daddy in his house. And the house I live in today, daddy bought that house when I was a little boy. And his intent was always to give it to me. So when he made his transition, I got the house, and it's here. And so that doesn't speak to the astrocartography specifically, but what I am speaking to and what I want to make the point is where you live, Trudy. Yes, when you move closer to that Uranus line, and then you say studying astrology and tarot was activated within you, yes, I agree. I totally support that and agree. Totally support that and agree. And thank you for your question.
Wonderful, fantastic example. Do you ever use antitia and contra antitia to determine vocation?
I have not. So to date, I have not done that. yet. It is something that I may explore in the future. Now, one thing I will say this that bothers me a little bit. So when we throw in all the planets, all the fixed stars, and all the asteroids, when you throw in everything and the kitchen sink, you'll always be right about whatever you're talking about. So I, at times, think we should import the fixed stars and at times import asteroids. As you see, I did it today and it was a fit. But I am reluctant to just throw everything in and see what I come up with. But yes, certainly we should look at them at times. But Antisha and that I have not. I know they exist. I've lectured about them, but I don't look at them for vocational. Not that I shouldn't. I just haven't.
Wonderful, thank you. Do you think Uranus in retrograde has any impact at all?
Hmm. I'm inclined to say I'm inclined to say yes. Now, in a different branch of astrology, electional, and in a book written by Martin McEvers, The Only Way to Learn Astrology, Volume 5, they say that in electional, retrogrades don't matter. In vocational, I'm inclined to say that they do matter, especially if they change directions. So, for example, if you were born and Uranus was retrograde, and maybe at age 30, Uranus stationed and then turned direct, and especially if it's in the 10th house or the first house or definitely angular, I think that may show up for you in some way, wherein you may suddenly go in one day and submit your letter of resignation effective immediately. That would be a sudden and unexpected move, um, according to your employer, where you're just done. You don't want to do that anymore. You change careers and you go in a whole different direction.
Thank you very much. Would you favor the intuitive signs Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, along with Gemini for the communication aspect of being an astrologer with 11th house of groups and third house for communication?
So, yes, everyone, I do think Uranus in a specific zodiac sign or Uranus in a particular house, it matters. I think it makes a difference. And if the Uranus is in Scorpio, and I've seen in some books that Uranus is exalted in Scorpio, but that's not totally across the board. Um, I think one may be more intuitive when it comes to astrology when Uranus may be in Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, or potentially in the 12th house. So, yes.
Thank you. Do you need to reshare your presentation or is that finished? Can we go
Oh,
straight to the Q&A?
yeah, I'll put it back on the screen. It was essentially finished. Um,
Okay.
and so as you can see, that is Gregory. And then after that, I just wanted to say thank you, everyone. That's the last
Wonderful.
slide.
Thank you so much, Omari, for a fascinating presentation with wonderful chart examples. Absolutely wonderful. I can't wait to sit down and rewatch the recording myself. So I
Yeah.
don't know if you can see all the hearts and the claps coming through.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you all
see the
so
hearts,
much.
and thank you for the love, everyone. And I want to say this, due to the time constraint, it is not possible for us to cover every combination. But if you look at that hierarchy slide, feel free to use that as a starting point. And if you love astrology and you didn't see an example today that is close to your chart or fits your chart, don't panic. It's okay. You can expand that a little bit and look at other things. And if you have a follow-up question about today's presentation, feel free to reach out to me if you want to. So I'm going to stop sharing so that Callum or Lori can share anything that they want to share. Oh, and one more thing. Sunday, July 20th, Electional Astrology and Astropreneurship with Dr. Omari Martin. We're going to have a great time. Register today.
Wonderful. Absolutely. And thank you everyone for tuning in all around the world. We love our Kepler community. Thank you all so much. I do apologize if we didn't get to everybody's question. Just to reiterate, we'll post the recording of this on our YouTube channel in the next couple of days. And actually, if you've got any more questions, you can pop them under the YouTube comment box and maybe put in your questions there, and we'll try and get to those as well. So thank you all so much for joining us today, and you'll see again the recording in the next couple of days.
And I'll answer some of those questions on the YouTube channel if I can.
Oh, wonderful. So you can jump in. Yeah. So any questions we
If
didn't
I
get
have
to
the
today?
capability to answer the questions, I will.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Omari.
You're welcome.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Callum. Thank you, Lori. Mwah, to my Kepler
Wonderful.
College family.
Wonderful. And we'll see you all again next time at the next webinar. Laurie, did you have anything else to add at the end?
Nope, just thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you at the next webinar.
Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful.
See you next time. Be well.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.